Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Sue Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos, and today is September 14th. It's the eclipse season, right smack dab between the lights going out. First the lunar with the moon, and then coming up with the solar. We have plenty to say when we get to it, and we'll just begin. It's time for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crocodelsey, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present.
Well, yes, it is. And we are unmasking reality. Sort of a little bit like undoing the present. Yeah, maybe?
Absolutely. Exactly. It's great to be here today with you, both of you.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Once again, and especially on such a auspicious event, a 29-degree Virgo solar eclipse following, as we shall see right here, yes, the 0 degrees new moon just last month. So unusual to have from the very alpha to omega, right? The beginning to the end of the whole 30 degrees of the zodiac.
Well, I think that just to say something about this, as we know that the lunar nodes, South Node, Ketu, is going through Virgo this year, and I think this is really the inflection point of the year. Since we're dealing with all 30 degrees of Virgo, and all of us are dealing with that South Node Ketu in Virgo this year. This is really highlighting how that is affecting us this year.
I absolutely agree. And it's ruled by Mercury, which is such a dualistic sign on many capacities. It is a messenger between the spirit and the underground, or the mortality and immortality. It's just many facets. So it's Liz, any comments?
Well, yeah, it's taken us 2 months to work on what we might want to release in our lives. So I think that's fabulous, that we can discern what we want to let go.
Or improve.
Yeah.
Or improve.
Yes, always a matter, isn't it? Us dear Virgonian aspects, wherever we are, it's like, okay, once again, polish it a little bit more. But it makes life better. It's more efficient and it's uncluttered. It's amazing how something can get refined and just feel much better. So, and it simply said, a solar eclipse, when the sun is within 18 degrees of the nodes, the moon is blocking, is in between. And so therefore the size, amazingly, because of the distance, you just can't see the sun. It's not it's a partial though. We'll just lead on. Perhaps we want to talk a little bit about the archetype. We already did. And it is ruling not only the South Node, but Venus also. It just entered Virgo, along with the sun and the moon. Of refinement, as we spoke of, improvement, reorganizing those details in life, pruning, what is really useful to use. It's a practical sign, really, Virgo. It's an earth sign. It's mutable, so it's flexible. But that is in the case that I think it can toss this detail out or bring this one in or see the whole structure, the organizational pattern of something. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The new moon, we always talk about the intentions. With a solar eclipse, it's a bit different. And it's a good time to release. And in fact, it happens to be even though it's a solar eclipse, it's at the South Node. So again, it's a point of release. It's harnessing that transformation. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Like working on what you want to release so that you can make room to bring in the new.
And even though this solar eclipse it's partial solar eclipse is not seen by us here in North America, it's still going to affect us. But the next visible solar eclipse here in the Americas won't be. Now we'll see some lunar eclipses over the next couple of years, definitely, of course. But solar eclipses won't see the next one in the Americas till 2029, actually.
Okay. It's the same tarot as last month. So this is again that epitome that the outer planets, when they stay in a degree, it's like a drilling slowly, emphasizing. And as you were saying, both of you, about the extent of this period of time, and the fact that it is the South Node for the next year, but the Hermit and the Magician, the major arcana, one for Virgo and one for Mercury as ruler, are still highly impactful. So introspection, illumination, that spiritual growth, communication, new beginnings. Any thoughts?
When I'm a hermit, also, listening to your own wisdom.
Isn't that a gift?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Numerology, 29 adds up to 11. It's a master number. It could be distilled to 2, but 11 really, it works. Balance and creativity, Liz.
Stepping up, and 11 is a higher level of that too, so it carries more responsibility and maybe helping and teaching other people what you know and can share that with them. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, the 29 also represents a relationship, because 2 is about relationship. In numerology, the 9 has a Neptunian field to it. It's the number that kind of represents the collective. So this is also about relationships in the collective at this particular point. And that seems to be sort of a theme that we've all been dealing with right now, is all these relationships in the collective. It's really the big thing, and part of this new moon is about that as well.
Good point. Name of the game, actually, isn't it? Because the outer planet Pluto is in Aquarius, which has so much to do about community and groups. Yep. A lot of transformation right there. And the lunar mansions.
So the lunar mansions represent portions of the sky where these constellations that the planets all go through, and each one of these lunar mansions has a theme to it with the fixed stars. And so for this particular one, the moon and the sun are in the nakshatra. It's Uttara Falguni in the third pada, which is ruled by air. And so this, why we look at the lunar mansions is because it gives us a deeper insight in the themes around this moon. And this one, of course, this lunar mansion is ruled by the sun. And of course, the ruling deity is Ahriman, which is a solar god. So there's some positiveness to this. This particular lunar mansion relates to contracts, unions, relationships, and service as well, which is a Virgo aspect there, service. But this one, it's where we work towards social welfare of others. So if you have a planet in this, like the moon and the sun are going to be in this particular one, in this pada, it relates to service and working towards social welfare of others. And so the symbol is the back legs of a bed, and it relates to abundance through family and also abundance through the partner's family. So this is really, if you really think about one of the aspects, and we'll see this in the Sabian symbols, is that this is a good time to particularly focus on relationships, service and relationships, and what abundance we can get from those. And so there may be themes that come up right now around, let's say Virgo is transiting your 10th house of career. This could be a time when you're improving relationships in your career for more abundance. Or if it's in your 7th house of relationship or your 4th house, there is this concept, the Virgo concept of improving and relationships and abundance from those. So just food for thought.
Oh, it's powerful to consider. I mean, service, of course, is Virgo, but this idea that it relates that partnership, which, you know, we're leading into very shortly, like the day after this will be the equinox when the sun is in Libra, which is everything to do about your partnerships of some sort.
Yep.
And so it's preparing us, really. And isn't that what Virgo wants to do, is to prepare that?
Yeah. So it's a good time to actually look at contracts or, our relationships, because this is the star of patronage. So this could be a great time to start, new contracts or new relationships, or, to look at changes within a relationship of some sort relationship.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Once again, these Sabian symbols, these imagery, mystical set of every degree channeled in 1925, and we're with medium Elsie Wheeler, and we do 3 of them: the past, present, and current. And we begin with the ascendant, which in this case will be the Eastern daylight time, because we're still associating it with North America, as far as North America and the United States, right? In Canada too, both capitals are on the East Coast, but you would have to relate it to your own time zone. However, it will be in Capricorn, and it's in the third, I only think of Pada now. I can't think of anything else.
Decad.
Decad, thank you. Yeah, the third decade. Yeah, 2021, 22. And then the
But
MC
I love it's actually the similar concept. So I'm glad you brought that out, because then people can understand the concept of padas too. So that's awesome.
Oh, good. Yeah. And Scorpion, interestingly, I look at these 3 and they're all compatible. Capricorn with Earth, Scorpio with water, and another Earth sign, which is, of course, the Sun and Moon in Virgo. So in that sense, there's some kind of flow, you would think, or connection between the MC and, as a nation, or maybe as we're working in that concept. Well, for the ascendant, which is 21 degrees, we'll begin with 20. And I'll just read what the Sabian is and give maybe a brief bit other parts of it. People can read this, and then we'll integrate it after that, and as before we go on to the ascendant. But it is at Capricorn 20 is a hidden choir singing during a religious service. So this is really an idea that there's a transcendence and you're working with a group, but that you have that you're the being. Anyway, go ahead, Liz. What's the next one?
Okay, the present is Capricorn 21, a relay race. So it's talking about competition with the group. And so there's like this huge interchange taking place. Justin?
Yeah, and then what it's working towards, of course, for those on the show, the reason we look at the ascendant is just this is how we're moving forward into this new moon. And so we're looking here at Capricorn 22 degrees, and the concept here is by accepting defeat gracefully, a general reveals nobility of character. And so this is really to the concept that in life that we grow through not only wins, but also defeats. And when we do that, we build some sense of inner strength.
So it must come from a sense of fulfillment, plenitude, does it? And then it's that give and take experience where you finally realize, hey, I've got it together. Is that too crude, or is that?
Well, no, I think what, if we looked at these three together, we see, first of all, the hidden choir is talking about the individual's creative function within a group. And then part of that is we have to have this dynamic interchange with others. Sometimes that's always not comfortable. Dynamic interchange can be give and take and some tension. But through that, we're going to have some successes and not successes. But overall, fulfilling our creative function in a group and dealing with dynamic interchange with others for good or bad builds an inner strength. That's what I get from that. What about you, Liz?
I would agree. So
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Liz. I agree too, because it makes sense that is how we gain inner strength. It is kind of a relay of give and take. You gain confidence and you build skill and etc. Thank you very much, Justin and Liz. So we're moving on to the MC. Liz, you want to start with the past? We'll kind of flip it around, you and me.
Sure. Scorpio 13, an inventor performs a laboratory experience. So, finding what you can do with your experiment. It's like, is it a good experiment or maybe not such a good experience? So it's like, and then, that you relate the seemingly unrelated facts through what you've learned through testing something.
Yeah. So the present, Scorpio 14, is a telephone lineman at work installing new connections. And this is really where you're working to channel that you need to communicate out so that other people can understand.
And then the one we're moving towards, and then of course again for the folks, because we're looking at the MC as we move forward in the moon, is because it gives us a sense of what we're trying to accomplish from a higher perspective here. So the future archetypal symbol here is children playing around 5 mounds of sand. And so this kind of relates almost like I like to say early childhood development. We're talking about development of mind to a higher level of growth. So it represents future-oriented growth here.
Both of these seem so powerfully connected, don't they? The first one where we're gaining some sense of ability, and here really evolving towards that mental evolution, as they suggest, that's being evoked.
Yeah, I would agree, and I feel like when I was looking at these, I'm like they're all very mental, and there's themes here around learning to relate facts in life conceptually between things, and then of course the will to communicate to others, and then of course learning about imaginative play and develop of the mind. And so that this all seems to be techniques to me, mental techniques towards how we can gain the most from this new moon.
Well, and pay attention to, spontaneous ideas that come into being, because they could be created into something, and to communicate that with others, because they might have a piece of it and you might have a piece of it, and then you could have fun with it together.
That's beautiful, Liz,
agree.
because that really would be the purpose of communicating. Like, why not install, this new communication? That's a great benefit. In fact, all civilizations have always achieved through better communication skills.
Well, and I think because we're dealing with the moon at 29 degrees, the part of that anaretic degrees over there, that this is really this moon is a lot about growth and evolution, I think.
Well, here we are at the 29-degree Virgo new moon. So it would be 28, 29, and 30 degrees of Virgo. And for the past, at 28 degrees, it's a bald-headed man who has seized power. And again, it's the power of the will. And you have to look at, if it's for me, it's perhaps arrogant, or it's not so divine. Because if it's for thee, for others, then there is that gift of service, the true altruistic benefit of gifting to help one another. And then, of course, it's divine. So it's really the intention. Why do you want the power?
In the present degree, Virgo 29, a seeker after occult knowledge is reading an ancient scroll which illumines his mind. So it's like, tapping into that old knowledge and, to gain perspective, perhaps, or that a truth could be revealed. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, and then where it's moving towards here, the Virgo 30 degrees, totally intent upon completing immediate task. Man is deaf to any allurement. So here we have the total concentration required for reaching any spiritual goal. And really, the 30 degrees of Virgo is all about the conquest of illusion, what's true and what's not true.
Boy, that is unmasking reality, which, just think of today with all the reality shows we have. It's been a consciousness for 20 years. You keep saying, this show's been on for 20, 25. I can't believe it, but it's true. And this, it's no longer just sitcoms where people want to know about the friends or some family or something. They want to know what they think is reality, which is sort of a questionable thing too. Is it set up? What is the truth? What is reality?
When I look at these three, one of the things about Virgo, if you read all through the 30 Sabian symbols for the Virgo, you realize that with Virgo, there's always some sense of crisis. There's a sense of crisis in order to improve what the Virgo wants to do. It has to go through some difficult situation. And I think here, that first one, which is really about the power of will. We're talking about personality strength here and that. And then the 29, as you go through this, and that's what happens, if we go through crisis in life, it's a character building or personality, the power of will. We develop our will through going through a crisis. But then when we go through a crisis, we have some coming back to some spiritual truth here, which to me is about the 29 degrees, is about, as I read this, I come back to some type of knowledge that grounds, that centers me. And then ultimately what I'm trying to do as a Virgo is trying to come to some level of what is true and what's not true, the conquest of illusion. And that's why I see the way these three interact. What do you all think, Liz? Sue?
Well, I like that. And also discernment. I would put in discernment. I always put in discernment. Virgo all the time.
No, Liz, you were reading my mind, because I was thinking that was what we said. Our discretionary, maybe it was discernment, discretionary, same in a sense difference. And that was last month, was 0 degrees. It was the power of discernment. And I was thinking, exactly, because we've had a whole month of trying to use that empowerment of of weeding out what is functioning, what is real, what is abstract, what is fiction, what is illusion. It's with the changing times, right? And because it's our own life is changing, we're reflecting, that gift back. So yes, strong discernment. Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Liz. We might be a minute or two ahead, but we'll make it up with the next one. So we'll sign off. We'll come right back and stay here. We have a lot more to talk about. All those astrological details.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Virgo. By leaving a cycle based on the creative manifested legacy of our highest creative form, the energy of Virgo completes the last sign below the horizon of the self and requires discernment to perfect oneself through the mental process of critical analysis. As a mutable earth sign duly ruled by Mercury, Virgo refines, heals, or fixes through daily routines, developing skills and services to control nature's chaos and maximize efficiency.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Dr. Nils Rasmussen at healingministryforanimals.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your human or animal loved ones on this side or the other, and private readings with Natasha. Hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Find out the latest about your favorite shows on Alternative Talk 1150. Check out 1150kknw.com.
Hi again. We have Elizabeth Liz Machette, and you can find her at lightpath.com. She has a YouTube channel, also at Elizabeth Liz Machette. Justin Crockett Elsie, his website is his whole name, and that's with one L. Elzie, Crockett with 2 T's. And he has a YouTube channel. And myself, Talk Cosmos. A little bit about what's coming up for each one of us. Liz, go ahead, please.
Yes, I have a YouTube channel, and we have the Astrology Star Sisters that have a number of shows, and Justin joins me for a few shows. So there's lots to see. There's you can go to the archives, or you can sign up and watch live. Thank you.
And Justin.
Yeah, so I do consultations via Zoom, and you can check out my YouTube channel at Astrological Yogi, or the best way to get a hold of me is justin.lz@gmail.com through my email. And what's coming up for me, I know it's a little ways out, but I am doing a lunchtime presentation at UAC next year on the Sabian symbols.
Super. Myself, I have this month quite a bit about the eclipses, but they're all in a different context. Last week was with Louise Eddington, and we looked at both in some various with Laura Tad. And of course, today, looking from all our metaphysically dimensions along with the astrology. But there is the equinox, and that's actually a message for the whole season of the next fall up until winter, about consciousness, that vibrational astrology has its own techniques of really diving into finding out what the vibrations are. And it's always quite a storyline going from one season to the next. I find it very powerful. And then we do the whole lunar capsule with Talk Cosmos. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in, however you do, listening. Also, I will be I'm part of Wine Country Speakers.org, and we have an event on October 4th for 2.5 hours, Pacific Daylight Time at 10 until 12:30. It's free, and it's Speak Up, Stand Out, Elevate Your Influence, and you'll learn tips. I'm talking about the emotional compass, how to rise and shine, show your voice. Here we go. It is now, we're talking, it's about the astrology for the 29-degree solar eclipse. And in Washington, D.C., that'll be on the 21st of September, 2025. I'm sure that's right. 2021 is not the 22nd?
No, it's the 21st.
3:53. Okay, 3:53:51 p.m. You know, I work with so many dates and times I begin to second guess, but I guess so. Yeah. So here's the sun and the moon. They're making a lot, but it's always great to see what are they really working with. And they're all in strong patterns, every single aspects, but they're connecting to Juno and of our partnerships. Well, they're not just partnerships, it's our alliance is what we're married to in a sense. And square an action-oriented aspect. Squares are always action. And it's with Hygeia, who is purity, the daughter of Eclipses, the god of medicine. And but they're also associated with greater patterns that we'll see. But this is the sun. The sun and the moon is like pumping out that energy towards it. And then a flowing trine with Uranus and Pluto, which has been going on and will be but now the sun is involved with that trine with Uranus and Pluto, and which happens to include the ascendant for the United States. And finally, there is a grand trine, and there's the opposition with Saturn, Uranus. The only difference is that the sun and the moon that are involved with these outer planets that's making this dynamo. Do you want to make a comment, or should we go on to the patterns?
Well, I can't remember if we got each of these aspects on the next slides. So if we don't, I'd like to make a couple of comments here. I think what's important as we look at this, just the aspects of the moon, that this is actually, what jumps out to me, of course, the most important one is the grand trine. And we're in that long period of the triangulation between Pluto and Uranus, why all this kind of represents the chain that's going on. So it's interesting how this moon is being affected mundane-wise by that grand trine, and also by the opposition with Saturn and Neptune, basically all the outer planets. The moon sees all the outer planets here. And I think that's really kind of the big story. And the sextile to Juno, of course, and the square to Hygeia, to me, kind of represents sort of the emotions, or difficult emotions, that we're having to deal with in relationships, with that Lilith being right next to Juno and Scorpio. And in Hygeia and Cancer, there's again, it brings out the issue of relationships and the collective. That seems to be the overriding thing there. I don't know, what do you all think?
Well, I will just jump right back, Liz, before. It's just to say yes, in the sense that when the sun and the moon are involved, it's everything about our ego. It's that unity of ego and emotion. So it's a powerful light making it current. It's really taking these outer energies that are working for a long time, like you say, with the mini grand trines, but centering it into us. Liz, go ahead. You had thought? Because we are going to show these.
Comment that moon is making a lot of aspects, so it's very active with the other planets, and we'll see that in the next slides, because I know you have all the aspect patterns coming up to show everybody. So
okay. Well, true. And in this one, this is the T-squares, hard action. And it doesn't exactly involve, well, it could involve the sun and moon, but particularly with the apex between the oppositions happen to be Mercury and Venus, along with Pholus, which is a centaur of kind of endings. But
right. And
Go
then,
ahead,
you know,
folks.
yes. Well, yeah, because there's like big adjustments to take place, and we have series with Pholus and Mercury, so communication and anything to do with our grief, and you know, it's series is agriculture too, so there could be some changes with that. And then the other one is with Vesta, Venus, and Uranus. So we have, you know, these asteroids involved in all this, you know, adjustment. So, you know, Vesta is, you know, our communities, our town, our country, our state, you know, can go on many different levels.
Hearth. Mm-hmm. Hearth, our flame, yes, that we consider that we want to keep living. But
yeah, I think the square between Mercury and Hygeia is kind of important there, and of course it involves Pholus as well, which means just sudden events happening. And Mercury is our mind, and Virgo, it's analytical, and of course our heart and emotions are on Hygeia's sleeve there. So I mean, there's a really it's really showing that there's can be some sudden changes in our thinking and our emotions within relationships. And I think that's something to pay attention to right now, is how we are emotionally reacting to everything in the collective. It's really calling us to be more discerning about everything that's happening, and to really step back and evaluate how we're reacting to everything in the collective right now emotionally. And we're supposed to be thinking about instead of reacting emotionally here to these things.
Yeah, and and both of you, the idea that things are happening suddenly, because Pholus does represent that with the mythology, and then Uranus, of course, is unexpected. It's the moment happening. So yes, to be quite flexible. What were you thinking? More not detached, but just objective, trying to stand back, look at.
I would say not apathetic. Not where you don't care, because we care, but it's really about, with Pholus representing sudden changes happening. It's asking us to engage Mercury, like Liz said, discernment earlier, and also Hygeia as to how the health of our emotions are. Are we getting dragged down the rabbit hole with just a tunnel vision, you know? And so I think we need to step back and evaluate, but go forward smartly, you know, like Mercury and Virgo.
And maybe do a little bit of an investigation to make sure what you heard was really true.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. A yod is adjustments. It's where one planet.
I think you just missed a slide. There's
goof up?
there's if you go back.
We did. I think I didn't do this one. It was
there. You go.
That I missed?
Yes, we didn't do that one.
Okay, well, we did this one. We didn't this one. This is the one. Yeah.
Yes.
The square. That's next. Well, we have two big aspects when it comes to Mars square Pluto, which will be exact on the 24th. This is really pivotal. If you look back in time, I think with another show with Planet Buzz, Laura Tad found out it was 1653 since this exact square in a total Pisces eclipse. Of course, it's not a total Pisces eclipse. This is a, but with this same scenario, yes, is very unusual.
The unusualness being the eclipse when Mars and Pluto are at these particular degrees
and at the
squared.
And these signs, yes, in these signs of because also in order to do that, they will be exact. Like right now, they're not square.
But Mars will square Pluto.
Early air, but it will be Scorpio.
Right. Mars will square Pluto within the next year and a half too again. So, but this one I think is really important because Mars is not comfortable in Libra, of course, and when Mars is in Libra, there brings a sense of victimization, unfairness. It's very sensitive, and I think it's, you know, to me, be curious what you both think, but I mean, Pluto brings in a sense of things are outside our control in the collective. And so it's really how there's going to be people who are going to be acting like they want to fight, with Mars squaring Pluto, and things seem unfair. So I think this really, again, highlights the kind of what we're talking about on the prior slide, is how we're reacting and how we take, our effort and action, which is Mars, in relation to this tension with Pluto creating events that are outside our control. What do you all think?
I like what you said, and I think we should go to the next slide.
Okay.
Oh, well, I do always has good sense. I mean, which really we can feed off of. I love. And I'm thinking it does help again with the thinking prowess, because Mercury is ruling that Virgo business. Of course, it's not in Virgo right now, is it? Well, what's interesting, and we said this before, is that Mars and Pluto rule Scorpio. And of course, Mars will be going into it, although right now, Mars for this eclipse is in Libra. So it does. Okay, onward. Thank you. Sorry. A yod, finger of God, big adjustment. The focal point cannot get it together with those planets that are sextile. And we go over this quite a bit. You can study that for those that want. It happens to be Mars is the focal point. And it is in that yod with Uranus and the conjunct planets that will be conjunct in February on the 20th of next year, Saturn and Neptune, that are still pretty, well, they're drifting apart at this time, but they'll come back together. So and besides that, there's two more singular yods, but it means that our actions are just not able. I mean, there's many ways to interpret, so I'll just present one and you guys add up to whatever else. But how we're trying to act with balanced give and take from extremes, that's Libra, is having difficulty with the moments happening, the changes, which is Uranus, with what we might be seeing that's restricted and maybe illusionary. And if we were really of higher mind, would include the spirituality, but perhaps it's not. Maybe we're just in a bunch of escapism. So it's really tricky.
Well, I would agree. And I think when we look at quincunxes, that can be an imbalance. And to your point there, I agree. I think that, again, this kind of goes back to it just really kind of highlights the Mars squaring Pluto, of how we're reacting and taking action with Uranus, and which represents some sense of change. So, Mars Uranus aspects is about not taking risks or sudden actions without thinking first. And then, of course, as you said, that Saturn and Neptune, the collective, and some difficulties in collective. So I agree with what you said, Sue.
Well, and I'm glad you pointed out about the square going to Pluto, because basically this is the two malefics and the outer planets that are often referred to malefics too. So this is kind of a challenging yod, I would say.
Yep.
Well, they do want, when you think of transformation, it's just not simple. It's just not always putting a different color on a piece of paper. It's when you think of a butterfly, its caterpillar has dissolved. It's transmuted into something different. And Mars, when it desires something, it's pretty like a horse, on a racetrack. It wants that thing. It's going to get it, or greyhound, or whatever it is. It's not thinking of how it's affecting something else necessarily. So it can have its challenges without even perhaps intending it. It doesn't matter. But besides that, there's these other quincunxes. We can't get our values together with how we're trying to transform. And it could be because Venus is in Virgo, trying to make it perfect, possibly, or gathering or figuring out what details, discerning. And meanwhile, it's got a tall order. It's got Pluto in Aquarius with huge groups, networking. It's not just a simple affair. That in itself is very demanding. Okay, well, we can go on. Now we have kites and a mystic grand rectangle. I know you both have quite a bit to say. Liz, you always have something great to say about mystic triangles, rectangles rather.
Yeah, because it's, they're hard work, but you do the work that they ask of you, and then you reap the rewards from it, because it's like there's a gift or a present or some kind of reward once you do that, because it's two oppositions, two trines, and two sextiles that all connect together. And we have the sun and moon with trine to Pluto. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. I'm reading the wrong one. The sun and moon is sextile to Mercury, and then Junos Vesta is trine to Saturn, Neptune, sextile to Uranus, and then trine back to the moon and sun. And Mercury is pretty close there too, so you could include that. So it's like we have a lot of extra planets involved in that instead of just 4 planets. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I would have to agree, and I've already said the stuff about the grand trine, so I don't really have so much to say here. I just back up what she said.
Yeah, and I have been studying vibrational astrology, and I just started a new class today at the 3rd session, and again, the trines is in research from that, because it takes the research, are not, they're easy, they're a flow, but interestingly, the ones who are experiencing that trine want to keep that trine going. They want that flow, and they will work dastardly, that I said that's a nice word, but really hard to keep it going. And so it can be quite confrontational too. So it's
yeah, I will say something if I could about this one now that you're talking, and I'm thinking about something here, that if we think about this grand trine, this is very mental and not emotional. This grand trine is mental energy flowing with no emotion. I mean, because it's Mercury with Gemini and Aquarius. And so this is just really, again, I think highlights the importance of what we're thinking right now and how we're communicating about things in general, to be honest with you.
It is. And in that case, it could be a great time to really do the inner work, which we've been talking about. This is not news that I'm suggesting, but just to reemphasize. Sweetheart, thank you. It's like delete.
Talking about communications.
Yeah. delete. Exactly.
Right on cue.
Yeah, because it's in that intentions inside. Where are we intending? That's part of the whole. It's how you're feeling, though. And that could be why having Saturn back in Pisces, it is a water sign, that maybe we're getting drawn into the past again to reflect. There's a lot of retrograde planets here. We have, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus. They're all Neptune. They're all retrograde. So we're really going back into what has been and rethinking about it. So it's important to feel. Go ahead.
Well, in helping us get out of that mental grand trine, it goes to a kite to Saturn and Neptune. So Saturn's in Pisces, so that's a little bit of the emotional part. And then Neptune is in Aries. That's a little bit of fiery of what emotions or delusions are. So that kind of helps that to not getting stuck and just keep going around the circle, so to speak.
Exactly. Okay, what next? Well, there's angel wings. Sue Tompkins named that, where you get 2 mini grand trines. And when together, there's this kind of a bowl situation that some people call. Is it a bowl? Yeah.
Cradle.
Cradle. I like that. Cradle. Thank you, Liz. You're the one that said cradle. So really, those connections, sometimes some people say connections are just about the most important. You take it as you wish. But in other words, they're not to really be overlooked. They have a lot of power. If used.
Angel wings, because that's a new term for me, but I like that. And, these mini grand trines are also referred to as talent trines. So, the one that's been ongoing for quite some time is with the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus and Saturn. And then now we have that connecting up there to Vesta, it looks like. So
Yes.
So within
So
our
it matters. Right. Vesta, the matter, our hearth, very ancient mythology, where the flame had to keep going. And so I guess we all feel that. We feel our home, our cradle, our hearth. Used to be that people would put their image, their on the hearth, they would pray to what objects. They're like an altar, their home altar.
Right, in our towns and cities and states and up to the whole, however big your country is that you live in. So it's like on so many levels. It's like, bringing that in too.
Once again, people can look at this. There are these patterns. It's called Point of Thales. He was a great ancient Greek philosopher. There's always a focal point between an opposition. And that is, I think, what in the mystic rectangle, because there's four of them, if you take a cross either way, but that's all this strong interaction, are called the wedges, some call it. And there's two here that weren't in that other configuration. So this is a power, looking at this solar eclipse, it has this energies working and that energies. It's like an ocean there just whirling and twirling, doing, or wind gales or whatever it is, activating. And it would be Venus and Pluto are the focal points.
And if we remember earlier, they were quincunx.
Right. They are trying to
find some sense of balance between the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I want to change, but gee whiz, how can I change what I want according to what the group or the ideas or the improvements? Because everything has its plus and minuses, and Aquarius, for all its brotherhood and all its individuality of an individual, you can get lost in the group. Where's your individuality? So
yeah, lots of energy happening, and it's like a Point of Thales, like I said, with the mystic rectangle. It's like there's effort that needs to be put forth to come up with a resolution, to work it, to resolve it and move forward.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think when I think of Venus quincunxing Pluto there, I think in one theme of that could be that we're really having to adjust our desires right now, because Venus is about desires and affections, and Pluto's coming in and saying, nope, you can't do that. Nope, you're going to have to change this. So it's really kind of, we're having to adjust to the moment. I think we talked about this earlier. That was sort of in our conversation earlier about being meeting the moment or being present in the moment. I think Venus is, we're having to align our desires right now with, and just adjust swiftly to what's possible, what's not possible.
Changing circumstances. Good point. Well, I guess that was a story. As they say, here's Miss Virgo Solar Eclipse, and all her. I put her down as a healer. That is in one way. You think of Virgo. Virgo has healing modalities. It's a daily routine. It's what's daily. It's what tries to fix and heal. It's the opposite of demise, and because the polarity with Pisces, although it is oneness and is all in its totality, roofs get destroyed because of the moss or whatever. You have to somewhat improve things, at least in the civilization. That's all making sense. So that's what I
When
put
Virgo
there.
being a sign of service, it's like, we think of being in service of others, but I think it's really important that we be in service to ourselves too, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to have anything left to give and be in service to others.
And I think Hygeia is really speaking highly of that. She's been so strong. It's over. We did bring her up, but that's where that purity or the health, whether it's of our body, our minds, our hearts, our emotions, it's all intertwined.
And with so many planets retrograde to do a reevaluation process. Go ahead, Justin.
No. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish what you were going to say, Liz.
Oh, I think I did. So,
well, I would just say for folks that are watching this that it's important to kind of know where this solar, the solar eclipse in your chart and what house it's hitting in, because that's where you're going to see some shift in the cycle at this particular point this year.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes. We were a little bit off there for a moment. So I think, well, golly. It hasn't happened yet. We're right in between. And I guess it's a time to start discerning. What is it that we want to let go, to let in and move ahead so that we can get through some clutter? There's always clutter in it. The Virgo can easily see that sometimes. I know I'm going to go through my storage unit, so I'm really hoping.
Well, that's very Virgo-like. That's very Virgo-like. You're really
opening up. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like somatic, if you can't, it'll work. So everybody, thank you. And thank you, Liz Machette. Thank you, Justin Elsie. And thank you, everyone. And great energies to you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.